Welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Coming up on today's episode, Aina signs a new contract extension with the Reds. Players have been released, but who are they? Loan players are removed from the squad as well. Khan called out Nottingham Forest for a meeting over the city ground. All this and plenty more coming up on your latest Forest news. Let's get into it. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Please don't forget, hit that like, subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. Let's get 324 likes if we can on this video. Okay, let's kick this off with Ola Aina, who has signed an extension for another year with Nottingham Forest. Now, this technically is old news. We told you about it probably about 3 or 4 months ago that this was going to happen, but it's been officially confirmed today by the club. And I think this is a good signing, but I'm not entirely happy with it. Why? Because we've only extended it by another year, which puts us in the same situation come January next 2025, whenever it is, where Ola Aina will be able to talk to other clubs on a Bosman completely free of charge. So I'm a bit confused as to why Forest have only extended it by a year. You'd expect that maybe Forest were looking for 2 years, so maybe it's Aina who wants to keep his options open. But in terms of the player, I think this has been one of Forest's best signings. We've been mocked and memed about the amount of players we've signed over the last 2 years, but no one can say a bad word about this signing. Let's not forget, he was away at AFCON as well, got into team of the tournament there, had a fantastic tournament, came back and performed really well in the latter half of the season for Nottingham Forest. On top of that, he's a versatile fullback, can play left back or right back just as comfortably. In fact, I still would argue that his strongest position is at right back, but we've utilised him more so in the left back position. And maybe this is why we're seeing a lot of links at the moment to Nottingham Forest and left backs more so than right backs, because Aina is there as a utility option, if you like, even though I think he's way better than that. But he is signed, he is confirmed, deal done, job done. Let's move forward and let's see how he performs next year. The only downside to Aina is he has picked up a few injuries over the course of the last 12 months. And hopefully he's going to be fully recovered. His injury record over the years hasn't been too bad. So I just hope it's a freak one this year. But Aina done. How do you guys feel about him? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, let's move on to the players that have been leaving, and these are permanent players for Nottingham Forest who have come to the end of their contract, and there is a couple on the list there to say the least. Now, we know about Felipe. The less said about it, the better. Who's going to model all the pictures now in the club shop with Felipe gone? Anyway, what I will say about Felipe is last season, we call it last season still, you know what I'm talking about. One of the best signings we made. If it wasn't for him, God only knows how many goals we would have leaked and conceded. Yes, this season he hasn't been great. He's been, he's picked up a lot of injuries. In fact, his injury record started from about this time last year where he was out and we didn't see him come into the team at all. But unfortunately, Felipe is gone. So, all you husbands out there, you can release the wives to look around. You're safe in the Nottingham area because Felipe, we believe, is going back to Brazil. So, Felipe gone. The other one gone, Cheikhou Kouyaté. Now, what do I feel about Cheikhou Kouyaté? He definitely needed to go. He was coming to the end of it. He's in his 30s now. He just tanked every time he was on the pitch. He had about 20 minutes in him, max a half, and then you could see he was gassing. Now, within those 40 minutes or so where he was fit and still breathing without an oxygen tank, he actually had some decent performances. In fact, there was a stage last season, again, I'm talking about the first season, he was actually becoming one of the most important and reliable players under Cooper's regime. But this season, he's been used very sparsely. He went away to AFCON himself as well. But I think it's been the right decision to let him go. So Kouyate has gone. Wayne Hennessey as well is another one. Look, if I never see him play football again, it's not too soon. That game against Manchester United last season, just no. He's too slow. He's too old. He's past it. It's the right thing to release him. And then the strong rumours are that Harry Arter is staying. No, I'm joking. Harry Arter has no more clauses, no more rabbits left up the sleeve, nothing. He is going at the end of June, and that's 30k a week extra we will see on the balance sheet because Harry Arter has gone. I mean, the guy hasn't played since, when was his last loan? I think it was like Notts County or something. The guy is, you almost have to respect and applaud what he has done. The money he has made off our backs. And a lot of people blame him. How do you guys feel about Harry Arter? I look at it and think, look, if I'm playing in a club, let's just say I was at whoever, not Forest, obviously, and I was stealing a living off them, I'd be thanking my agent every single day for all the weird and crazy clauses he's put in the contract to keep him in. But is there one final hidden clause? As far as we know, no. Harry Arter, rest in peace. He is gone from Nottingham Forest. The one that hasn't been announced, though, is Scott McKenna. Scott McKenna, we know, only had 6 months left on his contract. He went out on loan to Copenhagen, played in the Champions League, had a couple of decent performances, to be honest, for them. But whether or not Forest have retained him is still unclear at the moment. But my guess is that he will be released, because I just don't see him fitting into Nuno's plans or Nuno's squad. You kind of got to put him and group him together with the likes of Joe Worrell. He's not the type of defender Nuno will look to take on. But out of all those players, is there anyone you would have considered keeping? For me, maybe McKenna as a backup centre-back and Felipe for the photo shoots. But outside of that, I don't think many can complain too much about the players that have been released. But get your thoughts in the comments down below. Okay, in terms of the loanees that Forest have had, and let me just remind you how many we've had this season, because it's a decent list. You got Giovanni Reyna, you got Divock Origi, you got Tavares, you've got Montiel, you got Ribeiro, and let's not forget we had Santos in from Chelsea earlier on this season. The decision has been made by the club that we will not be taking up any options to buy or negotiating for any permanent moves on any of these players. All of them have been released. And in one big swoop, Forest have cleared a lot of players off the books. Look, we were picking up most likely some of those wages. Out of those players, there's a couple that I was intrigued to see and maybe continue on at Forest. And if you had to get me to put them in a list of preferential order, I probably would have had to think about Rodrigo Ribeiro, because there were signs of a decent player in him, a very young player. But I don't think the fee that was being asked for him is worth the risk. We can spend that money better elsewhere. Now, the other one that I thought was okay in spells, and let's face it, he was in all our away wins since, I think, pretty much all of them, from Newcastle onwards, was Montiel. Montiel, Forest did have an option to buy him. It was about 11 million, but they've declined that. However, there is talks that Sevilla, as we told you about a week and a half ago, would be willing to let him go for about £3 or £4 million. Now, he is in his late 20s. He does have a clanger in him every now and again, but I do feel he's a decent player. Do Forest need another right back? With Nico Williams coming into form, as we mentioned earlier on, Aina with the ability to switch across to the right hand side, and we know that Nuno likes to work with a small tight squad. Therefore, I can't see us going back in for him. But overall, I don't think he was the worst signing. The one that probably disappointed me the most, more so in the fact that he wasn't given opportunities, was Giovanni Reyna. There is one hell of a player in Giovanni Reyna, and I do worry in a couple of years' time we may look back and think he could have been ours. But with Morgan Gibbs-White in the form he was in this season, it was always going to be hard for Gio Reyna to muscle his way past him into that number 10 position. However, we talked about it a lot, putting Morgan Gibbs-White in the 8, Gio Reyna in the 10, but Nuno never really wanted to commit to that, apart from a couple of cameos with it in a few matches a few weeks back. So Gio Reyna may turn around and bite us in the arse, but on the balance of probability, you'd look at it and think it's the right decision to let him go. Now, Forest didn't have an option to buy on Gio Reyna, but no doubt Dortmund would have been willing to at least come to the table and negotiate for him. But would you guys have kept him? Let me know in the comments down below. And then there's Origi, the guy who just can't put the ball in the back of the net. Scored 1 goal for us this season against Bristol, I think it was, in the Cup, and that was an accidental deflection off his backside. Would you have kept him on 120k a week? This one definitely needed to go, and he's now Milan's problem, and they don't really know what they're doing with him. We get your thoughts in the loanee players as well in the comments down below. So the City Ground debate brings itself back to the forefront again, with the full council meeting taking place yesterday with the new leader in charge, who is Nighat Khan. And a question was asked to her from a friend of the show, Steve, where he asked them, and let me quote it here, would the leader agree with me that we welcome Nottingham Forest retaining the Premier League status, and that we are proud of all they have done, in particular over the last 46 years in putting Nottingham and on the football map and the benefits it's brought to the city. Would you further agree with me that we and the vast majority of the fans want Forest to stay at their home on the banks of the Trent, and we will work with the club towards that end? So that was put out by Steve, and Miss Khan responded, and let me just get her quote here for you. I definitely believe they should stay at the City Ground, and one of my actions as the new leader of the council will be reaching out to the owner and the chairman and asking for a meeting to actually really thrash it out. What seems to be the problem? That was the statement put out to her, which is basically a public invitation to Marinakis and Tom Cartledge to sit down and have a discussion. As we all know, the council have offered Forest a 250 million lease over 250 years, aka $1 million a year. But we do know that Forest have the option to buy the City Ground for less than City Ground lease, freehold. Let me get the words right. For less than £10 million. And the pressure is now starting to ramp up on the likes of Tom to be more transparent in his communications, in what he's saying, because this was news that was brought to us over from the City Council side rather than from the Forest side. So, will they take up this invite? If this invite is declined by the likes of Marinakis and Tom, then the intentions and purposes of what they want to do, I think, will be laid out clearly, that they are looking for a move away from the City Ground. Now, we'll do a whole separate video on the City Ground, but it is important to keep you guys aware of the ever-evolving situation in it. And now there's a new leader in the City Council. They may have the momentum to push this through, to get themselves a quick win if they can. So watch this space, and we will keep you posted on developments as always. And that brings you up to date with your latest Nottingham Forest news. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And if you didn't check out Happy Old Reds last night, I'll leave you the link on the end screen as well. Go give that a watch if you've got some free time. Thank you for watching. Come on, you Reds.